Hello and welcome into another episode of the Jet Report, coming to you live on a Tuesday. What is going on? Matt O'Leary here, hanging out with you. I am excited for another episode here as the Jets have a big game coming up against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. They are slight underdogs in that game, but should be a really good matchup of a 7-4 football team up against a 9-2 football club out there in Minnesota. Absolutely amped up to get into that one. You could become a member of the channel here at Matt O'Leary NY by hitting the join button down below. It would really be appreciated. You could send in super chats, have your question answered, and make sure to subscribe both here and Matt O'Leary NY Extra for additional content. Thank you so much for hanging with me. We're also available in podcast form after the fact, if you didn't know. If you prefer to listen on Spotify or listen on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, you could do that too. All right, I want to talk about Garrett Wilson. So I want to pull up the tweet from Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the New York Jets for The Athletic. Garrett Wilson's been on an unbelievable pace. Over the last 4 games, 21 catches, 314 yards, 2 touchdowns. Over a full season, those numbers would project out to 89 catches, 1,334 yards, and 8 touchdowns. The rookie is rolling. He would go on to say PFF has Garrett Wilson graded as the 8th best wide receiver, minimum 10 targets from week 8 through week 12. Big stuff from Garrett Wilson. I wanted to pull up just overall his numbers and talk about the games that he's played recently. The one against Chicago, 5 catches, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. I just love his ability with the ball in his hands to do good things. It's not necessarily on the same page as like an Elijah Moore with his seemingly unreal ability to escape with the ball in his hands, but I mean, some of these performances, 6 for 115, 8 for 92, 2 for 12 wasn't very good, but the Jets offense in general wasn't very good against New England. Then targeted 8 times against Chicago, and he put up monster numbers again, 5 catches, 95 yards. And if you're to pace him out over a full 17 game season now, he's on pace for 971 yards and 6 touchdowns. He has a real shot to break 1,000. I think he has every opportunity to do it, especially with some of the defenses that they still have to go up against, and some of the good quarterback play that we've seen from Mike White this past week. You can make the case that he was fine with Zach Wilson as he put up 115 and 92 yards respectively, but what we saw Mike White do with the offense and take it to another level, if that continues, then look out, because that is going to be something fun to watch. I just don't like seeing the rushing attempts. 1 for -2 yards, 1 for 7 yards, and then 1 for -1, and then 1 for 0 actually against New England. I don't think he's the guy for the end around handoffs personally, but the Jets have a legitimate stud at the wide receiver position. I don't think you could debate that. It was something the Jets had to do before this past offseason. They didn't trade for a wide receiver. They elected to go with one in the draft, and that's why people like me, and there were plenty of other creators who were really adamant about taking a wide receiver early in this draft if you weren't going to trade for one. And this is the exact reason why, because you are seeing the kind of impact that he has right away. Through 10 games, he's been legitimately fantastic. So the future of this Jets wide receiver core feels really very much so like it's going to be Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. I know Elijah is someone who requested a trade, but he seemed much happier this past week. His energy has been a little bit different. And I think that it's going to be the two of those guys going together going forward. But we'll see if Denzel Mims is a part of that future. Braxton Berrios should be around as well. But Corey Davis, who knows what happens with him down the stretch. He's been a pretty good receiver for this team when he's healthy and on the field, but unfortunately gets banged up a lot. So just wanted to get into Garrett Wilson overall and just my thoughts on his performance over the last few weeks, man. That 5 catch, 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's gone over 90 yards in 3 of the last 4 games. He's done it 4 times in his NFL career so far. Has two touchdown games. So I'd like him to maybe spread out the touchdowns a little bit, have a couple games where you have a touchdown. But would it surprise you if he ended up finishing with around 1,000 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns? I don't think so, which that would be a stellar season for the young kid in Garrett Wilson. He's developing into a star in front of our very eyes, and I think he deserves the love. So I wanted to show him some love and appreciation. We'll open it up for comments and questions. We are going to hang out for about 45 minutes or so, like we do every day. So Ruben chimes in and says, George Fant days as a Jet are all but over. Yeah, Max Mitchell with his coming back, and I thought he played well. He didn't start. He ended up coming back, but was going to be a backup, which I hate when they do that. If you're healthy enough to play, just play. It's either you're healthy enough or you're not. But I don't see how George Fant comes back in. I think it's going to be Max Mitchell at this point. It's been far too long, and Mitchell's played well. John says, hey, fellers, I think G. Wilson's numbers would be off the charts if we had decent quarterback play. That's a great point. For most of the year, the Jets have had below average quarterback play, and he's still on pace for a monster season. That kind of just goes to show you the talent that's really there. And I think if you get consistent quarterback play, it's going to be a fun one. Brian Bogan, what's up, man? He's a member of the channel. If you want to do that, you can join down below. It says Vikings D is weak across the middle, which is one of White's strengths. Yeah, I'm really not all that concerned with the Vikings passing attack, or the pass defense, I guess I should say. The pass attack on offense, they could put up some points with the best of them. But here's how they rank. According to, I'm just going to minimize the comments so we can see the whole thing. They are 32nd in yards allowed, 16th in touchdowns allowed, and 27th in attempts. But they are top 10 in attempts, yards, and touchdowns. So it's been a really impressive showing for that offense, but a lackluster showing for that defense. I agree. I think the Jets could potentially get some nice wins in the passing game. If White plays like what he did against Buffalo, you're in really good shape. Brian, I like this one, man. Says Garrett Wilson won't be able to run so fast with all these Pepsi belts weighing him down. Yeah, he's got to win again this week. No, I don't see how he doesn't come away with the win as the belt. It's unbelievable what the Jets rookies have done this year. He deserves it. He deserves another one. Sergeant CVO says Jets, Niners, Bills this week. Yep, those are absolutely teams that are on the rooting guide. Yesterday we went through and talked about who we're rooting for. I think it makes the most sense for this team to be rooting for the Buffalo Bills, because I don't think you're going to be able to catch them. I'm sure it's possible, right? I guess anything is possible, but with the New England Patriots owning the tiebreaker over the Jets with their 2 wins, I think it's better to bury them. I think it's going to be a shootout despite our good defense. Talking about the Minnesota game, VR Hidalgo chimes in here. I don't know if it'll be that high scoring. I think it'll be like a 24-20 kind of game. So right around 44 combined points. The Jets defense has really clamped it down, especially recently. I want to pull up the numbers that they've allowed. They allowed 10 points, 17, 22 against New England, 9, 10, and 17. So they've held opponents under 20 points all but once over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. These 2 games were rough in the beginning. Baltimore, they held their own, but the Browns and the Bengals games, those 2 were clunkers for the defense. And then they snapped out of it. 20 points to Pittsburgh, 17, 10, 9, 22, 17, 10, 10. The Minnesota offense is stellar, but I don't think they're getting over 25 points. I think it's going to be somewhere in the low 20s. And if the Jets keep it to that, I think they have a good chance to win the game. Oh, Micro Fox says, I see a lot of pick sixes when Kurt tries to force it to Jefferson. Okay. I hope so. Yeah, Kirk Cousins has, I believe it's 9 interceptions on the season. He's has thrown interceptions in his past. It's not like he's an interception-free guy. And when he does throw them, they tend to come in bunches. For instance, against Philadelphia, he had 3 picks, one against New Orleans, one against Chicago. He had 2 against Buffalo. So against 2 pretty tough defenses, and New England, he had a pick. Um, so he had 2 interceptions against Buffalo. We know how good that defense is and what they can do. And he had 3 against the Eagles defense. So I think there's absolutely a possibility where he could end up turning the football over. I like this one from Scott. He says Garrett Wilson is the most exciting player since Brees Hall. Feels that way. VR says Mike White didn't have these weapons last year, so now he ain't losing the job. This is the NFL. You don't get too many shots. He will take advantage. Yeah, he's got to continue to play like he did this past week. Nah, he's not going to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every week, but just don't have a meltdown like what you had against Buffalo, and you probably won't lose the job. It's his to lose. Brian says Kevin O'Connell is 0-4 lifetime as an assistant versus the Jets. Good pull with Cleveland, San Francisco, Washington, and the Rams. His offenses have scored above 17 points once. Simply put, the Jets have owned O'Connell. That's a great pull. I don't necessarily think you're going to see that. Oh, another good pull. Robert Saleh is 3-3 lifetime as an assistant against the Vikings. His defenses have allowed more than 17 points to the Vikings once. Obviously, like these things change year to year, so it's these stats are fun, but I don't know how much it really means. But they are they're going to be it's going to be a good battle, I would imagine, between a high-powered offense, high-powered defense, and let's see who comes out on top. I think there'll be plays like I don't expect the Jets to shut him out. I don't. I also don't expect the Vikings to put up 30 plus points, but I think it's a little back and forth. I like this one from Ryder here. The key to winning is putting pressure on Kirk Cousins. I tend to agree. I think that's the best way to win this game. Anthony S says, I believe he can throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every week. Well, he would be an elite level quarterback then, which would be fantastic if the Jets had one of those. JK says this game against Minnesota is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Game of the week. It very well could be the game of the week. There's a lot of really good games on the slate. I want to pull up NFL Week 13, talk about some of these games here, because there's a lot of really good ones, not just this Jets game. So I'm just going to minimize your comment so we could pull up right here. The Bills and the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. Got to keep a close eye on that one. You have the Jets and the Vikings, which is good. The Commanders Giants is sneaky good. Titans Eagles is a good game. Dolphins Niners is a good game. Chiefs Bengals is a good game. There's a bunch of good ones on the slate. I'm excited for this. You have a 7-4 team against the 9-2 teams. These are, one of the better teams in the NFC against one of the better teams in the AFC. I love it. VR says, wish they would flex the game to Sunday night. Yeah, they already missed that. So we're going to see the Colts and the Cowboys on Sunday night. But in week 14, right now, the Sunday night game is the Chiefs and the Broncos. They can't keep that game on Sunday night. So who knows? Maybe the Bills and the Jets end up getting flexed into Sunday Night Football. JK says Mike White's pocket presence and trusting wide receivers is fun to watch too. That's a good point. He's getting the ball out of his hands quickly. He's making good decisions. He's going through his progressions. He played really good football on Sunday. My Holy King says, I hope the Jets win. Me too. Micro Fox says, do you see Salad dialing up blitzes? This defense doesn't do it a lot, but would this throw the Vikings off guard? I don't think so. I don't really think they need to with how good the pass rush is at getting home with just their front four and with just rushing four. I don't think you're going to need to. Anthony S says, that being said, I also believe you could throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every week. Love it. You saw the highlight tape, I guess. My Holy King, Dolphins and 49ers. Yeah, that's going to be a great game. Gotta root big for the 49ers this week. VRS, can I pull up Mike White's overall completion percentage? Yeah, we can do that. This past week, it was nearly 80%, which has him at, all right, let's do, thanks for bearing with me. For his career is 68.8. Last year was 66.7. So 78.6 in his one start this year. It was 62.5 against New England. It was 82.2 against the Bengals, 63.6 against Indy, and then 54.55 against Buffalo in his four games last year. But overall for his career, 68.8. Brian says 90% of the people watching this stream would make a better head coach than Jeff Saturday. Yeah, what was with that? I don't understand what he was doing at the end of that game, not calling timeouts. Why? Bill chimes in, says, yeah, Matt, all this is fun. It is the fun part as we watch the team grow into a playoff team. Yeah, we're watching it happen in front of our very eyes. It's a young core, and they're doing it together, and they're a lot of fun. It's a really good football team. It's been fun. Yep. The Forever Puddle says White had the 10th fastest time to throw among quarterbacks, 2.5 seconds. Yeah, he was just, that's it, man. He saw his read. He got the ball out. It took what the defense gave him. That's what this offense needs to be successful. Nicholas says, I'm on the Mike White train until further notice. I think this Jets team is too. They're going to ride it till it breaks, or if it breaks. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't. And they just continue to go out there and play good football, and he plays good football. I know that Robert Saleh said that his plan is still to eventually get back to Zach Wilson, but it's also dependent on how Mike White is playing. If it's going to be very hard to pull him if he's throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Nick H asks, why is Bryce Huff not playing more? Good point. They like to rotate him. I don't think he's an every down player, but he gets put in on pass rushing situations, so he could probably get played a little bit more, but he's not someone who's going to play a large majority of snaps ever. Can Mike White pull a Nick Foles? I hope so. That means the Jets go on and win a Super Bowl. Sign me up, man. Shane says Mike White stats this Sunday versus the Vikings, 350 and 4 touchdowns. I love it. Bill says Matt White had on 50% of his passes 4 to 8 seconds with the wide receivers wide open. There was no pass rush at all. No, it's the Bears defense isn't very good. So I mean that has to come into play a little bit in this one, but just what he was able to do is it doesn't make what he was able to do any less impressive. It was still a good day quarterbacking for him, no matter what happened externally, like the pass rush or just the defense in general. I like this thought. Jets Bills at Buffalo at night in December is not a winning football. Sorry, says I don't think that Jets Bills in Buffalo at night in December is winning formula for the Jets. Let's keep it at 1:00. That's fair. Good point from Brian here too. Not making the playoffs would be disappointing, but we can all rest easy knowing we have the right coaching staff in place and the future looks bright with these playmakers. Amen. You got it on both sides of the ball now. It's really fun. Joe says Mike White's ball placement and touch are incredible. Yeah, this past week it was very good. Steven's back. Devils, baby. There you go. My Islanders are in action tonight against the Flyers, so hopefully we beat them down for you. Between the injuries and quarterback issues, if the New York Jets make the playoffs, Salah should be coach of the year. I think he has a really strong case for it. I put Brian Dable up there pretty high. Nick Sirianni has to be in there, but there's no reason that Robert Salah isn't in the top three. Vikings defense is better than the defense of the Bears. Yes, that is true. Marginally better, but it's still not great. 23 of 30, 315 and 2 touchdowns for White. 31-0 league is put on notice. Sign me up for that. Bill doesn't think White is a starting quarterback. I'm not sold that he's the long-term answer for this team yet. I think he's played better, or he played better on Sunday than we've seen at all from Zach Wilson yet. And until they see otherwise, they're not going to go back to him. I'm not going to, anoint him the savior. But I think you have to look at what he did on Sunday and be impressed with it. I think he played well, and we'll see what happens. These next two games are going to be really big. I understand that the Vikings defense isn't great, but it's a 9-2 football team. They're a good team. We'll see if he's able to hang and compete with them. And then the same thing could be set up against Buffalo. The more touchdown was great. Pocket collapse on the right side. White calmly moved out to left and dropped the dime on Moore. Yeah, he just seemed very comfortable. He wasn't panicking back there, which was a big difference. Harlan says, and Douglas should be in the running for executive of the year. He absolutely should. I think Douglas is more deserving of executive of the year slightly than Robert Saleh, because I think it's going to be Brian Dable for coach of the year, and an executive of the year should be Joe Douglas. Alex T says, hopefully the coin is still correct and we go to the AFC Championship. That'd be great. Sign me up for that. Interesting one two here from Christopher. Says, hypothetical, let's say White does well and the Jets get a playoff berth and maybe get a wild card round. What does a contract look for White? And would that then change the views of a Jimmy G and maybe go for a Minshew to compete? I think if he's playing that well, you sign him to a deal. I don't know, maybe it ends up being around $10 million, which would be a high-end backup money and low-end starter money. And I think it would be White and Zach as your two quarterbacks and have them compete. But I don't think you'd bring in a Jimmy G to compete with potentially Mike White at that point. I think it would be either the veteran and Zach or just roll with what you have. I don't think they're moving off of Zach Wilson after year two. I think he's still going to be here. I'm not saying that he's going to necessarily start. I don't think that's fair to say, especially with how Mike White just played, but I don't think he's going to just be off the roster. Yeah, JK says it's not a question of him being a starter or not. It's more of asking, would Zach play to the same level or better? I agree. White should play the rest of the season and let Zach and White compete for the starting cornerback job in the preseason of 2023. I think that's fair. I think there's a strong possibility that that's what ends up happening here, Anthony. We're going to see, unless he plays poorly, I don't see them going back. Seeing Bam Knight have success on Sunday eased my nerves a little bit for the post Brees Hall run game. Yeah, that's a good point. Bam Knight was really impressive. I did a video earlier on it today. I think he absolutely is going to play this week against Minnesota, especially with Michael Carter a little bit banged up right now too. I don't know how you can not have him active after that kind of performance. He was excellent. He had over 100 all-purpose yards in the game. We saw it in the preseason. This guy could be a part of this running back rotation going forward. Joe says 10 million with huge performance bonuses for Mike White. Yeah, it sounds about right. I don't think it's going to be crazy money like 15 or plus million. He's at 2 and change right now. I think it would be a nice bump up there. Caden Smith says, Matt, do you feel confident against Minnesota? I feel we can take advantage of their defense, but they have a great offense with weapons that'll be hard to keep up with. I think it'll be a really tight game. There's a reason why it's a close spread. I think the Jets could win it. I absolutely think they could. I think it's like a 24-20 kind of game. I absolutely think the Jets can win on Sunday. Albert says the reason why Moore is doing well is because he's in the slot. So don't blame Wilson about that boneheaded move. Goes on the coaching staff. Yeah, I mean, I was arguing about trying to get him back in the slot. I think that's where he's at his best. It's good to see him involved. Dre says White plays anything close to his performance on Sunday. Jets can definitely pull off a last year Bengals season. I don't see why not. Jets may have to sign another running back so we could have 3 for the game. I think they were working someone out if James Robinson is not good to go. I want to see if I can find it. Sorry, I'm doing this on the fly here. Bad podcasting / hosting. Yeah, it was Tom Pellet. The Cardinals are waiving Jonathan Ward off injured reserve. Apparently, U Stadium was saying that Ward is working out with the Jets today. That's what I saw earlier. So yeah, maybe they do. So I guess we're not in the Fires, Sala, and Ulbrich train anymore. Nope, absolutely not. Darrell Henderson is still available. That's true. I thought he was pretty effective. I don't think he was used properly at all for whatever reason. I don't know why they weren't using him properly. It was very, very bizarre. Brian says Bell is available. Isn't he boxing now? How are 142 people watching and only 28 likes? Come on now, people. Yeah, let's go. Let's get those likes up, folks. Doesn't cost anything to leave a like. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dre. Kay says, "Don't count on a win Sunday unless the defense steps up and wins the game." Well, they've done it a bunch already this year. They've led up over 20 points one time since week 4. I was right. He beat Adrian Peterson in a fight. There we go. How comfortable are you if we win and the Bills lose? Still you're okay in that spot because you're not tied with New England. There's still one game back, which you could live with. Life is not about likes. When it helps the YouTube algorithm and that's how you get paid, it is. Hey, Matt, how many primetime games do you think the Jets get scheduled for next year between Monday night, Sunday night, and Thursday night? I'll say like 3, I think is probably a good estimation. My preference is the Sunday at 1:00 games. I know I'm in the minority there with that. But I think they get one of each. They've gotten a ton of Thursday games. They haven't been on Sunday night in like 10 plus years. I want to see Sauce lock up Jefferson, but that being a big task, that's a big task. I think it's a possibility. Yeah, I think, I don't know if he's going to shadow him. I think it's going to be a mix, kind of like what we've seen earlier in the year when they've gone against Diggs and when they've gone against some of these better receivers. It's not necessarily just Sauce following someone around. They like DJ Reed a lot too. Chris A says, if you look at the New York Jets remaining schedule, they aren't playing any good defenses. I mean, outside of Buffalo, you're not wrong. Do you think Mims out of the doghouse and will he see the field more? I think he is out of the doghouse. And I don't necessarily think he's going to see the field more with Corey Davis back, but I think he'll have maybe 1 to 2 catches every week. He'll be in there for a few plays. Jefferson is known to be is handsy too, so Sauce may not get called for his usual contact amount. Good point, because we saw Sauce get called this past week against Chase Claypool. So with Jefferson getting a little handy, maybe they just let them both play a little bit. Do you think someone in the Jets Do you think someone in the Jets play that video of Kirk Cousins saying he has the Jets money? Now let's see how much more you can get from Minnesota. They should. They've done a good job of keeping that revenge, whether it be the Tyreek Hill stuff or the Green Bay Packers not taking the bye. They've been taking their receipts. So if they were smart, I say they do. Oh, I like this from Ryder. Last game of the year, Jets Miami for the AFC East title. Now that would be electric. JFK says Mike White better go off again against against the Vikes. Their pass D is trash. Yeah, it's not good. They let up a ton of yardage in the past game, so it very well could be another good Mike White day. Yeah, Brees is itching to get back. He was in the building today. Good to see it. I'm happy about that. V-Man says Vikings D is trash. Made Matt Patricia offense look good. Yeah, Mac Jones threw for a ton of yards in that game. Thank you, V-Man. Sauce Island in full effect this week after letting Claypool get that catch plus penalty on him. Big motivation for him. He didn't like getting beat. Yeah, and it was one catch. I mean, everyone, I've seen the clip on Twitter a million times, but he only allowed that one catch. He's been great all year. Kirk Cousins' revenge game for spurning us in free agency, spurring us in free agency and using the Jets to get a contract from the Vikings. Let's go. Harlan says we should be running the ball more. I think in the second half, if you're up, they're going to be able to do that. How many times did they run the ball on Sunday? Without Michael Carter in the game, they still ran the ball. Come on now. 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 31 times in the game, right? 14 and 3 is 17 plus 21, 22, 33 times in the game. They ran a decent amount and they threw it 28. So I'm not complaining. That's when you know you're good. Shortest video compilation would be of Sauce getting beat, maybe 15 seconds long. Yeah, it's really two plays. Chase Claypool and Stephon Diggs both have a catch against him. Why is no one talking about how we soiled the Trayvon Wesco revenge game last week? Great point. Kirk Cousins is the second ever Vikings quarterback to face the Jets twice with the team, something that hasn't been done since Tommy Kramer in 79 and 82. Yeah, I forgot he was there in 2018. That's a good call out by you, Brian. I mean, obviously that was the Darnold's rookie year, and there was the whole Kirk Cousins or drafted quarterback debate, and he tried to get a ton of money out of the Jets. But yeah, that's right. And Sergeant CVO says Conklin revenge game. Any idea what the Jets coaches are doing to help Zach, or are they just hoping he gets better being on the practice squad? I think they're working with him on. They've been very vocal about getting his footwork and lower half right. So I would imagine that they are trying to get his mechanics right and his confidence up. Joe says Detroit, Vikings, Seattle, worst three defenses in the league. Throw in the Bears, and that's a pretty good stretch of defenses to take advantage of. Brian Bogan says, other Brian in here with them good stats. Yeah, he's impressed me today. I'll dropping a ton of knowledge on us in here. Give Zach boxing lessons for footwork. Okay. It's outside the box, but I like it. Bill says if you're going to have a playoff run, Zach's upside will be needed. White will not be able to handle the playoff defense. All right. And we'll have I mean, you'll get a better idea if that's the case or not these next 2 weeks. JFK asked if I think White should remain the quarterback for the rest of the season, playoffs included. I think you play him until he plays poorly. It's right now he's playing too good to sit. Depends on tiebreakers. Wild Wave. We still make the playoffs at 10-7. It depends on what other teams do. If both the Jets and Patriots finish with the same record, the Patriots would get in because they have the tiebreaker. Depends on what happens with some of these other teams, but you have a pretty good chance at 10-7. 11-6 makes you feel a lot nicer. I'm bummed there's no Jamal for Garrett and Elijah to make look like a fool. Yeah, that's true against Seattle, but it'd still be nice to get that W against them. Will we sweep the NFC North? That's a great question. You're 2-0 so far. I think, yeah. I think the Jets do sweep the NFC North. King Choice says, fix Zach's footwork and mechanics and he'll be fine. We can't be lazy franchise anymore when developing our young players. That's a big part of his game right now. I think it's the mechanics and confidence level that's the biggest issue right now. I don't think Zach played poorly against Coastal Carolina. I actually thought he was pretty good against Coastal Carolina, but you are correct with Mike White's worst game against Alabama. And Coastal Carolina has a very good defense also. So let's not dismiss that because Coastal, I believe I'd have to go back and look for that year, but they were one of the top defenses in the country. J Boy says G Dub about to break a record. Brian says love stats that mean nothing. Here's a random one. The Colts lost every game in 2021 where they rushed for under 125 yards and won every game where they exceeded that total. They are built on Jonathan Taylor. That much is for damn sure, isn't it? Twisted said Salah had said Zach looked good in practice, but you can't simulate pass rush. So come play time, Zach went to shambles. How can you not simulate that? Perplexed on that statement. I guess because they don't hit, you can't hit the quarterback in practice. So you're going to have a different feel when you know you're about to get hit versus when you're not going to get hit. Yeah, and Steven follows that up. Zach looks good in practice because he knows he won't get hit. Man, you have gotten real good at letting in different views, even when you disagree. You're my favorite podcast. Good stuff. Yeah, I appreciate it. Look, I try to mix it up. I try to get everyone's voices heard. As long as you're respectful about it, I'm good with that. I appreciate it. J Boy says, I think Zach just needs to grow up some more young and cocky. Yeah, I needed to be humbled after that. The post game comments were really, really gross. He handled it badly and he came out and he apologized for it. So I don't think the team is out on him. I really just think it's going to be, again, it's going to go back to being dependent on, they wanted to make the switch. They wanted to try to get Zach Wilson right. And in that process, Mike White's played well. Until that stops happening, he's not going to see the field. To be fair, Sal said Becton and Zach would be out 3 to 4 weeks. That's true. Moore looked pumped. He did look pumped in that game. He was very happy. Bill says, yes, he did need that humble pie. He certainly did. In that case, line up our 4 vesty line and tell them not to hold back. That's scary and a little unorthodox to say the least. Let's see what else we got in here. I have time for a few more, then we'll get out of here. I got to record just Jets, and then we have the Talking Jets panel tonight. So a long way to go for me on this day. Zach really screwed up your yardage predictions for receivers this year. Yeah, it's true. Yep. Sal said when Zach's ready to roll, he's going to roll. Like I said, it's just going to be very difficult to pull that trigger if you're getting 300 yards and 2-3 touchdowns every week from Mike White. I didn't realize Moore was having a relationship with the ball. Yeah, that was a little strange. It was a little weird, but hey, he's happy. Sergeant CVO says Wilson gonna break 1,000 yards. I hope so. Kev Chada, what's up, man? You made it for the last couple minutes here. I hope Green Bean will talk about his love for Ty Johnson. We'll make sure to bring it up on the stream. Thank you. Thank you for the support, guys. Really means a lot. Saunders says Zach will be fine. He's just young. It's a tough situation, but if Mike White is rolling, make Zach number 2 and hope he's ready when needed. Yep. I think that's fair. Oof. I would say none of the above yet. I think he is most like, if by AB you not Antonio Brown, but what was his other buddy in oh my god, in Philly? Who am I thinking of? Help me out. Why am I drawing a blank? What's his name? AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown is probably the best comp. Ooh, if you were to pick one non-quarterback to insert onto this current roster at this very moment, who would it be? Maybe Andrew Thomas at left tackle. Young stud offensive tackle. Yeah, AJ Brown. Thank you. Elijah Moore is funny for that press conference about the ball. That was wild. J Boy says Robert won't pull White, just saving Zach's ass so everyone don't kill him online. Could be. Duncan says there's nothing wrong with Zach sitting and watching a while. It used to happen in the old days. Something was up by the way he handled the media. Yeah, I think that's what it really comes down to. Needed a little bit of humbling, and I think it worked out. So that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for hanging out. Once again, next episode is tomorrow afternoon, 2:00 for the Jet Report. Subscribe here or on or in podcast form. New episode of Just Jets drops tomorrow. Talking Jets is later tonight with Ryan and Green Bean. Thanks for hanging with me on this Tuesday. I'll talk to you next time.